Hey everyone, Robert here. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Baseball Card Collecting with me. First of all, thanks for watching, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe and check out my other videos. So, this is going to be part one of 3 series. I've been wanting to really dig into the history of baseball cards. Something I've never done, and something I couldn't do when I was younger, most notably because there was no internet, there was no access to history of baseball cards unless you were in the industry. But with the advent of internet, I can find out all sorts of things, and boy have I, and it's just been very, very, very interesting learning about the history of baseball cards. And honestly, it just sums up with the word Topps, the company Topps. Topps is the top producer of baseball cards, has been since the 50s, for a couple of reasons. One, they just produce a quality product. The other reason is they are just a bulldog in the industry, and in this part one series, you'll understand why. So I won't go through the whole history. There are better videos, and I'll put those in the description below of better videos I have found researching for my own series here about just the full history of baseball cards. So I'm just going to go through history with the collection I have, and it'll start with this first page right here on the top. So we are looking at 1968 Topps, and for the first couple of pages here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages, it'll just be nothing but Topps. And the reason was, in the late 1950s, Topps had muscled Bowman out by essentially gaining exclusive contracts with Major League Baseball and the Baseball Players Association to produce their cards. MLB and the Players Association granted Topps sole exclusive rights to producing the cards. Bowman at the time was the only other card company, and Bowman was muscled out. Simple as that. So all of these will be Topps for a while until we get to 1992 in my collection. 1982. 1981 is when Fleer and Donruss were able to join the game, when Topps lost that exclusivity. And then we'll get to that soon. So anyway, start with Topps 60s and 70s. So what we're looking at is these essentially portraits. These were not action shots. They were a photographer taking portraits of the players. Cardboard printed with the old style multi-pass coloring process. Much like newspaper magazines in the day. The color still holds up. Still sharp. Topps continues to have, for the most part, just that classic border. These are not just white borders. They actually had color. The backs of the cards were also color. They had these lighthearted cartoon figures when they're doing kind of facts of the baseball players. Is still a mainstay today is this Topps All-Star Rookie emblem. Topps trying to point out who they feel will be the rookies to follow for that year. Something, again, you'll still find. So let's see. So I guess the only other thing I wanted to mention here is Topps is still chewing gum company. In fact, the back of the card says TCG, or Topps Chewing Gum Incorporated. Baseball cards were a way to sell candy. We're able to sell gum. That the candy was their primary product, not the baseball cards. Baseball cards was a way to sell their candy product. But that's what they stuck with through the years. So yeah, Topps chewing gum. So now let's see. So this is 1968 with this tan border. The gray border is 1970. Now we're starting to see the classic white border that Topps is more known for. So this is 1974. Still a pose. So then 1977 is right here, and if you'll see, you actually have an action shot photo taken during a ball game. Still mostly portraits, but to me this is interesting. They're starting to take pictures of the players during games and putting in action shots onto the cards. Other thing of note, these days getting an autographed card is rare and exclusive, and would be lots of money just because they're so hard to get in a card set. They were putting autographs right on the cards themselves. So, at some point Topps said, maybe we should make autographs a rarity. But I thought it was cool. Just they were already putting the players' autographs right on the card. As a kid, that would be fun to have. This is the next year, 1978. I can't quite tell. I see kind of people in the background, so they might still be opening up more of, game day photos being used on the cards. So now we're 1979, still sticking with a white border. Still that pose for the card. This is 1980. Back to putting autographs on the card again. This is fun. This is my Reggie Jackson. It's not a good condition card, but I own a Reggie Jackson. I always feel good knowing that I got one. White border still. You'll also notice on the back of the cards they kind of faded out the color. So it was really just in the late 60s that bright yellow. And then by the 70s, really toning it down, just keeping the natural color of the cardboard, that brownish gray, and adding just some faint color to the back. I'm sure it saves some money. So now we're in 1981. Again, still keeping a classic border, kind of playing around with iconography on the cards. So the older cards, just banners and pennants and flags, but now we're adding something with a little more detail. The caps. Still got a faded back of the card. So here we are now. This is 1982. Topps again is the mainstay, but you have two new contenders in the baseball card world. So this is Donruss and Fleer. And those are the name of the companies. That's how it started. Not too different from each other. Topps the year before had hats. Donruss the next year has bats. Fleer down here kept with a much more simpler design. And quite frankly, the color just pops out with the Donruss and the Fleer cards. A bright white, blues and yellows. The top still kept with that faded color. So definitely Donruss and Fleer are trying to make a name for themselves. So now we're into 1983 with Topps and Donruss. I don't have any Fleer from that year. Interesting, Donruss more or less stayed with the bat motif. Flipping it around instead of a ball, it's a glove. A nice way just to change things up and keep it simple. So now we're in 1984. Topps up here at the top. Playing around a little bit with their design, but still keeping white border, still basic, getting more action shots. Of to note, Donruss. Donruss, which I hadn't mentioned yet, was actually owned by General Mills, a cereal company. And by 1983, General Mills sold the Donruss cards off to a company called Leaf. Leaf was owned by a Finnish businessman, which I had no idea, and it's fascinating to me that someone from Finland in the early 80s is interested in candy making and American baseball. But that is what happened. So 1983, the Leaf from Finland bought Donruss, merged it together. So you'll see right here, Donruss and a Leaf symbol right on the card. Just totally fascinating, the history as these products moved around. So we're now into 1985. I only have the Topps here. 1986. 1986. This is interesting to me because, to me, these are the design that I really love and I really am drawn to. And I'm speaking specifically to the fonts, to the font that it used. Like even this A, triangle within a triangle, lots of triangles and points. Topps has never used this font before or ever again. For some reason, I'm just drawn to it. They don't use it for all the cards. All their special cards just use to me, a basic font. But just loved what they did with it. This is the one that stuck out to me. This is Donruss. Donruss totally changing also their cards, really trying to get away from Topps. And even Topps trying to get away from Topps. Both of these companies really trying to do something different. This is Donruss. If you can see just thin lines in the background, something that really pops. This is a team set of the Astros. And then 1987. I don't know what happened. To me, they took a huge step backwards. But if you can see, and this was a late 80s thing, wood grain everything, wood grain furniture, wood grain stereos, wood grain baseball cards. I'm sure they went to try it out just because of wood grain thinking baseball bats, but I think these are the ugliest Topps cards ever. They went from something really, to me, iconic and artistic, art deco-ish kind of to me, to just something bland with the wood grain. It just still continues to crack me up. Also to note, Topps got into Canada through purchasing a small confectionery company called O-Pee-Chee and started producing O-Pee-Chee branded baseball cards. And then Donruss also entered the Canadian market, branching off the Donruss / Leaf to Donruss only in the United States and Leaf brand in Canada. Really interesting. I knew there was a difference between what card was sold in the United States and what card was sold. Here's the O-Pee-Chee logo here. It's the same card, just one's labeled Topps, one's labeled O-Pee-Chee. One's United States, one's Canada. Here's Donruss to Leaf in Canada. Very interesting that they did that. But definitely you got two of these main companies trying to stay neck and neck with each other. Fleer, I have more Fleer. Fleer had always been there. Just I haven't had a lot of them. Here's 1988. 1988 Topps went back to classic border. They really stopped trying to do something different, and I think they are a fine looking card. They probably made the right choice. I wish they kind of wanted to do something a little different, but I guess they really thought, no, baseball, it's traditional, let's just stick with the traditional look of baseball cards. I have a whole bunch of these 1988 Topps, and let me just get to the bottom because we're almost done here with this first video and the end of the binder. And this is a nice segue to what's going to happen in my next series. So we're looking at 1988. Topps is already starting to think about what more can we do. Can we do more different lines than just our base card series? And this is their first attempt to do that. This is what they call their big Topps. So it's actually a slightly bigger card, bigger portraits. They also do a double. They have a headshot with an action shot. They're trying a more modern motif for their names. This is more of a paintbrush look with rainbows coloring. They're definitely entering the modern age here of baseball cards. This is something different, which Topps or any baseball card company has never done. Big, bold coloring, comic strips on the back. They are really testing their limits, and they're saying we're ready to really make baseball card collecting special. This is Donruss, 1988. It's an okay card. It's an interesting geometric design border and blue background, and Topps doesn't catch up quite yet. It's going to take Topps a little bit of time. Also to note, so when Donruss and Fleer came into the picture again in the early 80s, one of the stipulations was only Topps could sell their bubble gum with baseball cards. No one else could sell gum with cards. So Donruss opted to sell puzzle pieces with cards, and Fleer opted to sell stickers with cards, which totally interesting. I guess the last thing here, because this is also another segue to the next video, you have one more baseball card company in the mix, and this is Score. They had just come out in 1986 under a different company, Octographics Incorporated. Some of you collectors would know or would remember Sportflix cards, and it wasn't until 1988 that they got into standard baseball cards under the Score name. Pinnacle will be coming out soon, and we'll get that into the next video. The next video is going to be really interesting. Again, you're going to see baseball card explosion. You got all the major players in just itching to break out, try new things, and let's see what they got. Thanks so much for watching part 1, and I'll see you at part 2.